Okay, so the B value tells us if it's growing or if it's decaying or increasing or decreasing is the other way to say it, right? And if that number is bigger than 1, boom, it's going up. If it's less than 1 but greater than 0, in other words, B is greater than 0 or less than 1, then it's going to be a decay or the decrease where it kind of goes down really quick and then kind of slows down, but it's still going down, okay? So that's looking at the equation. Now we're looking at a table and we're trying to create an equation, okay? All right, so let's go to Deltamath and we're going to look at assignment 7B. So let's jump on over here. All right, so assignment 7B, you can see that there's 3 here. They're all pretty similar. And then you got 1 at the end. All right, so you got one like this. All right, let's maybe choose a different one. Let me see what this one is. Yeah, let's do this one, okay? All right, so I'm gonna write these numbers down. So 3, 12, 48, and 192. 3, 12, 48, and 192. All right, so here's your job. First of all, we got to remember we're creating an equation, right? So create the equation. In order to create an equation, we need to recognize the pattern. And the pattern here, it's not adding. We're not adding something every time. We're not adding 9. We're not adding 36. It's changing in a different way, okay? And the way it's changing from number to number is that it's multiplying. So from 3 to 12, we're multiplying by 4 from 12. And if I do the same thing here, I'm also multiplying by 4. Okay, so I always want to think, what would I have to multiply? Okay, so we talked about that yesterday. Make sure you are thinking about what would you multiply, not what would you divide, but what would you multiply to get the next number, and that will tell you our B value. All right. Oh, and I wish I would have used a different color. I'm actually going to change that to blue, just because yesterday I used blue. All right, so let's write down the equation first. So the equation is y equals a times b raised to the x. If you guys remember, the a is your start value, or I talked about yesterday, that's your principal, right? If we're talking about money. And then your b is your rate, of change or growth, or how fast it's moving, or how fast it's increasing, or how fast it's decreasing. All right. So when we look for that number you're multiplying, that's your B. Okay, so the B is equal to 4. There is another way to find B. Instead of just looking at it and trying to recognize it, you can take one of these numbers and one of the numbers before and divide them, okay? So what you do to find the B, I'm gonna write that over here first. You take the next number and divide it by the previous number. So the next number divided by the previous number. So what do I mean by that? Let's say I choose 48. I take 48. That's the next number, and divided by the one before, 12. And that will also give me 4. So if the numbers are like really big, or maybe they're decimals or fractions and they're hard to kind of like recognize what that number is, take the number after and multiply it by the number before. Okay, so there's your B, right? Now the start value is always the number where x equals 0. Boom, right there. Okay, so remember that wherever x equals 0, that's your start value. All right, so a is equal to 3. All right, so now we got to write out the equation. So first, y equals your a, so the 3, times the b, which is 4, and then raised to the x power. Okay, so that's how you do that. So when I go on Deltamath, you can see that it already has y there for you, so you don't actually have to put a y. So all I got to do is 3 parentheses 4, and there's a couple ways to get that exponent. What you can do is press Shift, and then you'll see the little arrow that goes up and down, the caret that's above 6, and you can get the exponent. Or go over here to the keyboard to the right, and the one to get an exponent is this one, the a raised to the b. This one gives you a 2, but you want to be able to type something, your own exponent, because we're not typing 2, so you click that one, and then you can click X. Okay, so that's how you set that up. Hopefully we got it right. Looks good. Kind of this talks about the same thing. You can see it's telling you the multiplicative rate of change. We're multiplying 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, it's kind of the same thing, just obviously written differently. Okay, here's a good one. All right, so now this next one, let's write that down. So 0, 4, 2, 1, and 0.5. Okay, so 4, 2, 1, 0.5. Okay, so again, I could start with whatever value. The easiest one is the start value, which there's x equal to 0, right? So a equals 4 this time, but now let's find b. So again, you could just look for it, recognize it, and say, okay, as I go from here to here, what am I doing? Now, what you guys will think, and does work, is you'll say, well, I divide by 2. But remember that when you are looking at the b value, b, you have to ask yourself, what do you multiply? Okay? And when it's going down, if you guys remember that b is going to be less than 1, so it's either going to be a decimal less than 1, or it could be a fraction less than 1. So now what am I multiplying here to get from 4 to 2? Okay? Well, what I could do is I could just do what we did here, take the next number divided by the previous number, or take a number after and divide it by before. So I'll take 2, I take the number before that, and divide it. Now, a lot of you guys make this mistake. In your brain, you go 2 divided by 4 is 2. It's not 2. If I have 4 on top, or a bigger number on top, 4 divided by 2, that would be 2. But it's a little number. It's a smaller number on top. Okay, so a smaller number on top means we need to reduce the fraction. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 2. So what I'm doing here is divide by 2 there, and then divide by 2 here, so I can reduce it, and that gives me 1/2. So my b value is actually 1/2. So then what are we multiplying? We're multiplying 1/2. Okay? You could also set that up in Desmos. So if you go to your Desmos calculator, and actually, you could actually do this in Deltamath. If you guys know, there's a calculator up here to the right. So if I click the calculator, I could do 2 divide 4. And you can see over here to the right, it gives me 0.5. Okay, or I like Desmos, to be honest. Desmos is just, to me, better. Okay, it gives me 0.5, but then I can switch it over to a fraction. Okay, so either way. Okay, so then our equation is going to be a value 4 times our b value raised to the x power. So then we got 1/2 in here. Okay, so how do we type that? Well, you got two choices. Actually, let's write the other option, by the way. So this is also equal to 0.5. Let's just put that. Okay, so you can also write 4 and then put 0.5 instead. And Deltamath and like IXL, like usually it doesn't matter if you put a decimal, unless it asks for something different. I'm sorry, guys, that's a 4, by the way. Okay, so it's just the same thing. I just put 0.5. Those are both acceptable answers. Okay. So Deltamath, close this and put 4. I could do 1 divided by 2, and it automatically makes it a fraction. And remember, you need to click on the keyboard to get that fraction button, or sorry, exponent button to make that an exponent. Okay. So if you accidentally don't put like the exponent, let's say you do it like that by accident, and it'll tell you, hey, try to find your mistake. That could be one of your mistakes that you made, by the way. So just make sure that when you guys type that, you're actually putting an exponent instead of just x, okay? So hopefully we got that right? Okay, good. Okay, so how about some decimals? Let's look at some decimals. Okay, we'll do one more example. So kind of like that. And actually, I'm going to do a different example because that's kind of similar. So let's do, let me pause the recording. All right, so forgot to record. So just a quick synopsis on that one, since I didn't record this example. Basically, this is the problem we set up. That was the start value because we're x equals 0. And then we took 2 of the y values, and you take the one, I took the number that comes next, that went on top. The number before goes on the bottom. We divide those, that gives us the b value, and then we just plug them into the equation, okay?